Hopefully we're live at this point. So yeah, I'm gonna try to pull this up on my iPad so that I can respond to you guys and your comments and all of that. That's the goal, at least. Uh, I did just hear a pretty big rumble in the background, which means that there's probably a storm outside or a storm brewing. So I don't know what that'll end up meaning for the stream here, but I am on my phone, hence having to do this. So thought maybe there we go. Let's come out. Being kind of slow. All right. Make sure I got a little bit of volume here. All right, so we are live on. Actually, if you are watching this on YouTube, I apologize. I'm not going to be able to see your comments. So, what I will try to do from time to time is go back to the camera and try to make sure that I'm not missing anybody's comments. So, just to give everybody a heads up. Yes, all right, so this is a good mark. We are back in the shop. We're back at Earl's. Just because I was kind of in town. And Thunder and Lightning BC. Yeah, so apparently it's already stormed. So, what's up, Mark? What's up, Missy? It's race season. As I noticed. So, we'll start racing. What does that mean? This is the 5th season that I have been doing purple discussion. Without fail, at the beginning of the first few weeks of the season, as it starts really ramping up. I know some of you guys have been racing all year long, but up here in Michigan, it's just starting to get going. And without fail, the first few weeks, I start getting a whole bunch of how do I make my car turn? Or my car's pushing, or it just doesn't turn, or all kinds of those questions. So we're going to cover that a little bit tonight. So if you want to give shout outs to Racing Oil, you head over to drivenracingoil.com and use code SWD10 and you can save 10%. Fair warning, I do make a couple dollars if you buy something using that code. However, it is the cheapest way for you to be able to pick up Driven Racing Oil, which is, in my opinion, the best out there. So sound sucks. Okay. I'll tell you what we're going to try to do. See if this will help. All right. I'm going to turn the sound back up here, so you guys might get an echo for a second. Let's see if that helps. All right. So you guys tell me if the sound is better now or not. So. All right. If it's not, I could try doing something different with the phone or whatnot. So we can try. Okay. Also, I'll try just yelling at you a little bit louder. Okay. So you head to the racetrack and get out there for first practice or first race night. And realize, oh yeah, it's just not doing what I want it to do. Okay. So first few things that you are always going to want to check. All right, so Kyle says it's the same. You guys getting the subtitles, by the way? Are they working for you? Because mine are working. I don't know. You guys probably will see it. I'm getting the subtitles. So your sound is terrible and you should feel bad. Well, I kind of do. Let me see if I can switch. I might be able to switch the microphone settings. So just a second, and we'll try this here. All right, you guys tell me if that gets better or worse. Okay. Is that better or worse? Right? I'm trying. I really am. I apologize. Uh, I wasn't as prepared for this as I'd hoped to be. So we are sideways though. But yeah. If the sound's that bad, if the sound's that bad, we're gonna have to just struggle through it. So I don't know. That one sounds a little better to me now. It's better, but you should still feel bad. I do still feel bad. All right. All right. So we fixed that issue a little bit. All right, cool. So first thing we're gonna talk about is the very basics that you guys need to be checking as far as all right, better. Cool. That's what I like to see. That's what I like to hear. Okay. More gooder, much gooder. All right, cool. Now we fixed that issue. Roll our sleeves up. All right. I'm not gonna get into like spring rates and bump stops and all that kind of stuff. The thing we're going to cover tonight is kind of the very basics of handling and how you can make the car better kind of at the racetrack. That's what we're going to shoot for tonight. Okay. We are going to assume that you have we're going to kind of go based off from you have the ability to make some adjustments, but I will try to do it both with if you have like coilovers and if you don't have coilovers. Okay. So not everything will just be, well, you just adjust the right front coilover and, so we're going to try both ways here. Okay. So now, I do want to tell you one big thing. Okay. If you go on to any of the groups on Facebook, all right, and you ask a question or you see a question asked, if you see this word, okay, you see this word. Okay. When somebody's talking, you probably can't see that. That marker is not as good as I hoped. If you see the word must, okay, you must do this. Chances are the person telling you that there we go. The person telling you that has no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Okay. I very, very rarely say the word must when it comes to handling, because the setup that you like and the setup I like are likely different. Okay. I can tell you right now, me and my dad, the setup that I took to Bristol with his car was like 30% cross, which I called a liar that I didn't actually take that. That's what I took Bristol. It was like 30% cross, 28, 30%. Okay. If I put my dad in that car, he would hate me. He would hate the car. He'd probably quit racing. Okay. We don't like the same car. So if somebody says, you must do this, chances are I don't know what they're talking about. Okay. So the very basics that you need to do is tire pressure. I don't write so good. Okay. Just so you know, I don't write so good. I draw worse, but I don't write good. Okay. Toe. By the way, notice the E. Okay. Not W. Okay. E. Right. Tire pressure. Toe. Camber. These three. Not necessarily in this order, but kind of in this order. These are the top three things that you need to make sure are where you want them. Okay. They should be like the first thing you check if something is way wrong with your car. Okay. Because you can change your driving style to make up for a spring that's too stiff or a spring that's too soft. You can adjust the way you're entering the corner or exiting the corner based on, sway bar and all that kind of stuff. But if I need 30 PSI in that tire and I have 15, that car's gonna handle like shit. It's just gonna handle like crap. Okay. I am not maximizing the tire. Okay. If my tires look like that, or they look like this. It's going to handle like crap. Okay. There's no amount of driving style that you can do to gain speed if you're towed in like 1.5 inches. Okay. There's nothing you can do. The car will not turn. Okay. So tow's important. And camber, I say camber, which it's harder to adjust at the track for a lot of people. With a Neon, with a 2-bolt strut, if you have the slots, you can loosen those nuts, lean it in and out. You can adjust camber at the track. But the reason I bring up camber is it where it's supposed to be? Did you add camber? So is your right front supposed to be leaning in? But when you go out on the track, it's looking like that, right? Or worse, it leans out the wrong way. Okay. So is camber steady where you put it, where you need it to be? You might not actually be able to adjust camber, but you need to check it and make sure that it's either not moving on you or it's not the wrong way, right? So I just want to start out by telling you that if you message me, if you're asking me questions about setting your car up, handling, stuff like that, if I ask you what your tire pressure is and you don't know, if I ask you what your tow is and you don't know, if I ask you what your camber is and you don't know, I can't help you. I can talk to you, but chances are you're going to be out in left field. Okay. And I don't mean that to be, I don't want to be mean. Okay. It's just, these are very, 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 very important. Okay. If my car isn't handling the way I want it to, the first thing I do, I'll double check tire pressure because it's real quick. First thing I do is check tow. Like if I come in, I'm like, man, something it just doesn't turn or something just not quite right. I check tow. That is my first thing I check every time. Anybody who's helped me race, anybody who's helped crew, if I come in and I don't like the car, if I come in and the car's doing something weird, if I don't like the way the car's handling, but I know that like, oh man, I adjusted this and I need to take that back. That's one thing. But like if I go out first practice, come in, set the tires, adjust the tires, go back out, and I'm like, man, something ain't right. Like nope. Tow. I come in, I check tow. Okay. You would be surprised. It can move around more than you would think it would. I've had it move 3/16 of an inch and nothing was loose. I adjusted it. It went right back to where it was supposed to be. Stayed that way for another week or two. It can move with the slightest bump. If your camber changes, your tow changes. Okay. So tow, vitally important, right? Now, just really, really quick. Why is tow important? Just to avoid that question. When you go into a corner and you turn, your right front turns to get you through that corner. Your left front should turn more than your right front because it is following a smaller arc to continue that same corner, okay? If your tow is, most front-wheel drive cars, by the way, they are designed so that when you turn the corner, this is Ackerman, you can't really change Ackerman at the track, okay? They're designed to actually tow in a little bit when you turn, because a front-wheel drive car from the factory is usually designed at the limit. When you turn the wheel, hard, sharp, fast, it's designed to push, because if you slow down, the push goes away. Which is something to remember too, okay? If you're out on the racetrack and you go into the corner and it doesn't turn, throttle, not the answer. 99% of the time, throttle's not the answer. Because if you don't have any traction in the front end, you're not going to get any traction in the front end by adding forward bite, okay? Not going to happen. So, slow down. Dirt, pavement, racing tires, street tires, doesn't matter. If it's pushing like a sumbitch, slow down a little bit, it'll bite, okay? Keep that in mind. That's what they're designed to do from the factory. So, if you have your tow wrong and it's towing in more, it's going to turn worse. If you have your tow correct, and it'll either tow in less, or it'll tow out, which will make it handle better. That's why I run such high static tow on my cars. Is the Ackerman on a Dodge Neon, is what I drive, which I've got most success with. It's about 9/16 tow in the center of the corner. So by having run a 9/16 tow out when I am going straight, it's basically 0, which is about the best I can do.
I have found between 8 and 10/16 is the best. If I go more than that, diminishing returns. If I go less than that, diminishing returns. Play with it with what you find. Okay. Also, you talk to me about toe, I deal in 16ths. Okay. Because I don't say 1/4. Okay. All right. I don't say 1/8. I'll say 2 or 4/16. Order of accuracy. Because I measure to the 16th, I talk in 16th. So if somebody tries to correct me, I chuckle at them and I explain to them that that's how I roll. Okay. You can adjust toe at the racetrack and try it out. And you can have the fanciest of fancy machines that will measure your toe statically in the garage. You can measure your Ackerman. You can measure your bump steer. You can measure all of that. You might just not like the car with the toe setting that you have. If you go out, front end doesn't have the grip that you think it should, or you don't like it, adjust the toe in or out. If you adjust it in and the car gets worse, adjust it out. If the car gets better, adjust it more in that direction. Okay? Your driving style can dictate toe. I race against guys who run 3/16 toe out in the Neon. They really like it. They're pretty quick. I run 9/16. Okay? So, something to keep in mind. Air pressure. The reason air pressure is important. You go in the corner, if this is your tire, okay? When that side force gets applied, your tire does not stay square. Your tire deflects, okay? And you might have that tread part, right? That flat tread, when it deflects, might end up being over here. Again, I can't draw, okay? It might be way over here. So if you got camber, that flat part is angled here, when that force is applied, it might even out. However, if you have really low air pressure, this is happening. More camber you run, the less air pressure that you need to keep that tread on the ground, but there is a diminishing result. So once you get low enough, it's going to start deflecting too far, okay? So it's a happy medium. You need to find the proper amount of camber and air pressure to keep your tire flat in the center of the corner. Your right front should realistically have the most air pressure. It is going to see the highest load. Doesn't matter where you're racing, doesn't matter surface you're racing on, tires you're racing on, your right front should see the highest load, okay? So you should theoretically have the highest pressure or the highest amount of camber and pressure, okay? Again, more camber, less air pressure, less camber, more air pressure, okay? And it's just to stop your tire from deflecting. It's that simple, okay? Air pressure is another one. I can tell you that when we used to run the Supertone HCR 200, which was a 195/70/14 380 treadwear tire, that was our DOT tires, I ran more air pressure than most people. I would run upwards of 50, 60 PSI. Most people, I never run more than 35. Cool. They hated the car with more air pressure. I hated the car with less air pressure. What I based mine on was wear and tire temp. Because we were camber limited, because we had the tall sidewall street tire, I could never get an even wear pattern. I could never get even temperatures because it would just deflect too much. 50 to 60 PSI was kind of my happy medium between blowing the thing up like, 1,000 PSI to try to keep it under me and, letting it still roll some. So tire pressure can be different depending on where you want to be, okay? Now, wheelbase, crossweight. Yeah, we can talk that a little bit. Okay. So all my locals do. Go full throttle, turn left, hope for the best. Yeah, I've seen it. I've watched a few races. So yeah, if you lose camber on the track, it can affect your toe. 100%. And Mr. Cloggy, we are not talking about advanced things like caster, crossweight, wheelbase, all that kind of stuff. Just simply because this is more of a we're at the track, okay? Just covering a few basics, and then we're talking about at the track kind of stuff you can do, okay? How to check tire temps? That is a good question. You can do it one of two ways. One of them, much more accurate, much more repeatable, okay? You buy yourself a tire barometer, and what it does, and this could be even just one of the digital no contact thermometers, or it could be one of the fancy super duper tablet based, save 19 spots of memory, but you will get a thermometer that physically measures tire temperatures. The goal is, by the way, if you're measuring tire temps, you want to do it as quickly as possible, as close to the track as possible within reason, okay? Ideally, you would measure them in the center of the corner while it's happening, because as you go down the straightaway, that tire starts to even out and cool down. Eventually, it will get to a point where it can't do that. But if you've ever seen a video where they're showing like infrared reading a tire, you can watch it get hot and then cool down, hot and cool down. It's kind of neat, right? But using that barometer, you're going to measure at least 3 points, okay? We're going to say that this is our tire, okay? This is your tread face up here, right? What you want to do, and then this is the right side, this is the left side, okay? So infield is this way, right? So if this is, we'll say this is the right front tire, okay? Being that this is the right side, this is the left, that means this is the outside, okay? Infield's in here. I'm going to take, and I want to measure the outside third, I want to measure the middle, and I want to measure the inside third. You don't want to get all the way out to the edge, okay? Just simply because you want you're basically trying to break this up into these thirds. You can do more data points than that if you want. Thirds, outside, middle, inside is kind of the quickest, easiest way to get a picture of it. But you're going to measure the temperature here, you're going to measure temperature here, you're going to measure temperature here. Round numbers just to make them easier. If I come in and my right front has 200 degrees and we have 150 and we have 100, okay, that tells me that, and again, this is the bottom side of my tire, okay, here's our rim, right? That tells me that that tire is folding under like this, and again, exaggerated, but this is doing most of the work. This is touching some of the time, and this is barely touching, okay? Because this is the hottest portion. This is just kind of the average between the two, right? If you're at the racetrack, you take the tire temps, and you find that you are, let's say you find that you're actually 200, and you're 150, and you're 150, okay? This tells me that you have an overinflated tire, because your tire is going to look like this, okay? You can likely drop pressure a little bit, even it out some. That will depend on the corner a little bit, but it's a good general rule of thumb, right? Now, let's say on our right front, if we come in and we measure our tire temps and we are 100, I don't write so good, okay? My brain works too fast. We're 100, we're 150, and we're 200, okay? This tells me that we either have too much camber, too much air pressure, or both, okay? Because what that's telling me is that this wheel, the tire, is likely cambered, okay? And this portion is doing the most work, and this portion is doing the least amount of work. So that tire is not actually deflecting under, okay? It's staying like this. So in this situation, I'm going to let air pressure out because it's a lot easier to drop air pressure than it is to change a camber. And if I drop air pressure and I see we go 175, 175, 150, we're getting a whole lot closer, right? I'd take those temperatures all day long because I doubt you. If you race dirt, if you race pavement, you probably never see those temps, okay? If you ask me what a good tire temp is, 200 range is usually a good number, but it depends on the tire you're running. Some of them will get super greasy at 220. Some of them will get super greasy at 300. It all kind of depends on the tire you're running, the surface you're running, stuff like that. So your mileage will vary on tire temps, but that's the goal for evening them out, okay? If you have your inside is really high, your outside is really low, less camber or less air, okay? Vice versa, more camber, more air, right? And you can do this if you're on dirt, you can do this if you're on pavement, okay? Because even if you're on dirt, your tire's still going to pick up heat, Okay. And if you come in, especially if it's a harder packed track where you can really build some heat, you can it's rubbered up, rubber down, right? Same deal applies. That tire's just deflecting too much. Okay. Now, if you are, I like this one. Bob says, anyone running less tire pressure than you is a moron, and anyone running more than you is an idiot. Hey, is inside determined from center of track or center of car? So I always do the tire based on the car. You can decide how you want to measure that, because it doesn't matter how I look at your paper if you understand your paper, right? So if I'm taking notes, which you should take notes. I'm really bad at it, but you should take notes. If I have my note section and I have 3 spaces for tire temps, okay, and they've got them labeled, inside, middle, outside, inside, middle, outside, right? If I'm looking at the car from above and I've got 4 tires, okay, the way I personally do it, just because it's easier for me in my head to remember it, this is the inside, okay, this is the inside, this is the outside, this is the outside, this is the outside, this is the outside. So when I do it, I do tire temps based on the car, okay? If you want to do it where you've got it switched up, where you got the inside is always, the same, where your infield means inside, go right ahead. The actual verbiage of how you do that is unimportant as long as you always do it the same way, okay? So if you have crew guys who are going to take your tire temps, because like if you watch like the super late teams and stuff like that, when they have somebody who does tire temps, they have one guy that always does it. Just make sure that you're always on the same page with whoever's going to actually take the tire temps, because you want to, ideally, when you park, you've got a guy checking tire temps, okay? Just because the longer it sits there, the more it's going to even out across the tire, right? Now, that's the fancy way, okay? That's the expensive way, because it requires you to buy like a $15 infrared thermometer all the way up to like a $700. Actually, I think the latest tire temp thing from Longacre was like $1,000, right? They're super handy. I bought one at one of the shows. I own Swap Meet. I bought one at a Swap Meet. It's an old version, but what they do is actually have a screen, and it does have that where you have your 3 numbers here, 3 numbers here, 3 numbers here. Basically, you go to the right front, you probe it, you hit a button, and it marks this number. And then you go to this one, you hit a button, and you probe it, hit a button, it marks this number. Go to the next spot, hit the button, probe it, hit the button, it marks this number. Then it drops down to your right rear, and you literally just beep, beep, beep. And so it records it for you. You could save them if you want. You can write it down, stuff like that. Super handy, super nice. But I paid like $150 for it, right? It was more expensive than that. I got a hell of a deal, okay? But I don't use as much as I should, but I could, right? What I do, and this is years of practice, okay? I use these. And I know this sounds really bad, because I will be honest with you, I don't care if my tire is 185 or 215, okay? What I care about is trying to get that tire on that corner even all the way across, all right? Just how I've done it, back when I didn't have tire temp stuff, I got really good at it. What I do is I take my hands and I put them like this and I lay them across the tire. And I will tell you, that right front is warm. It's real warm, okay? But these bad boys are calibrated enough to know if the outside scorching hot and the inside is, I can lay my hand on the inside and keep it there for a while. Inside's hot and the outside's hot, the inside isn't. There's a big variable. If I lay it across and they're fairly even across, and they're pretty even across, right? And I have done that literally since 07 when I started. So coming up on, Jesus, this is my 7th. Yeah, this is my 17th season? This is my 17th season. Yeah, because 07 through 10, would be 3. Then 10 to 24. This is my 17th season. Jesus. Anyways, I've been doing it that way for a long time. Okay. Now, the nice part about that style is that it is quick. Because I can literally walk up and be like, ha, ha, ooh, ah. Like, as long as it takes me to walk around the car, I can get those temps. The other nice part is that I've done this in Victory Lane before. They're wanting to interview me on the track, and I will get out. I don't need my left rear. I'll get out. I'll feel my left front, and then I'll walk around the back of the car, feel the right front or right rear, and feel the right front, and then walk up and start talking to the announcer. I've literally done that on the track. I don't have to have anybody come up there. I don't have any equipment. If you get out and you just take your bare hands and you lay them on the tires, you get immediate feedback no matter where you are, okay? So if you pull into the infield, if you pull into the outfield, pull into the pits, pull into tech, it doesn't matter. It doesn't require any other people. It doesn't require any other equipment. You can get a real quick, oh, inside's hot, outside's cold kind of feel like that. Is it accurate? Is it repeatable? Can you write it down in your notes? No, it's not the best way. It's quick. It's easy. I'm really bad at taking notes. That's why I do it. Okay. This year, when I get the good cars out, the goal is to really start taking notes so I have that information in the future. I wish I had some of the setup notes from 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Okay. But I don't, because I took horrible notes or none at all. Okay. So it's nothing you can measure, all that kind of stuff. Right. Yeah. Driving style can influence tire temps. So your driving style can influence tire temps. If you're the kind of person that you just kind of drive in and you just turn the wheel and you just kind of arc in a little bit, you're going to be gentler on the tires. You're not going to, if you and I had the exact same car, you drive it in really easy and you come off hard, you're likely not going to abuse the tire quite as much. But if I go into the corner and I snap the wheel, get the front end to bite, snap it, and then kind of bring the rear end along and follow it through, I am going to be harder on the tires. I can have a different tire temp because of that, right? Now, that's setup dependent as well. If my driving style is always my driving style, and I don't change it, my setup then changes, right? So, just something to keep a little bit. So how much left side weight is too much on dirt? I have no idea, James. My guess would be you can't put enough on the left side to make it too much. That'd be my guess. Now, we're at the racetrack. We go out, we practice, car handles like poop. It just starts pushing on you, okay? You come in, you check, tire temps, fairly even enough, as close as you can get them, or what they've been, right? Your toe is where it should be. Your tire pressures are where they should be. Cambers, where it should be, okay? Now we're going to get into a little bit of advanced stuff, right? We're going to say that you have messed with your toe, so you're not going to change it as an adjustment necessarily, right? So the big thing for you to try to do when you are driving your car, okay? As a driver, you need to get as much information as possible about what your car is doing. And some of you know what I'm talking about. And some of you are going to be like, Todd, I turn the wheel, it doesn't turn, and then I almost hit the wall, and then I don't, and then I'm at the next corner, right? What I'm talking about is, where is it pushing? Okay? Because your corner, it's not, you guys are using brakes. There's such thing as too much left side, pretty sure it's the way they rule about it. Yeah, pretty much. There is such thing as too much, but I ain't found it yet. Right? So if we have a corner, okay, we got this big long sweeping corner here, okay? It's not just the corner, okay? We're gonna say that the straightaway is here, just so that we have a reference, okay? When you say it's pushing, okay, I love you, Bob. So where we're at with this, right? And we're gonna say that this is the straightaway here as well, okay? When I say where's it pushing, what I mean is when you're going down the straightaway, and we're just gonna use kind of the middle just as an example here to show, okay, make it easier to see. If I'm driving down the straightaway, okay, there comes a point where I have to turn to make this corner, okay? So we're gonna call that the turn in, okay? Then I turn in, and the goal is to follow the arc of the corner all the way out until I am straight again, okay? This point here is where I am theoretically straight, headed that way, okay? If this is not a solid line, straight line, hey, just pretend with me, okay? Right? When I say, where's it pushing? Well, this is where we turned in. This is what's commonly referred to as the center of the corner, okay? And then somewhere between this point and this point, depending on the track, depending on the car, is going to be a point where you get in the gas, where you start accelerating again. If you're waiting until this point, you're probably losing. If you get in the gas way back here, you probably, because you also have a lift point, a turn in, okay? Your lift point's probably way back here. You probably move your lift point to here and your throttle point here, right? But somewhere along this line is going to be, all right, we'll do an X in here. This is our turn in. Then we have, these are possible points we're getting back in the gas. We have the center of the corner. And then from here to here is the exit, okay? So this is our entry. This is our turn in. This is the center. This is the exit. And then, circle equals gas, okay? This might look a little confusing to some of you, and that's okay, all right? To some of you, you're like, Todd, yeah, perfect sense. I've been doing this forever, okay? When I push it, center off. Yeah, we're gonna get better with artwork. Hey, we're doing simple artwork, Chris. That helps. Circles, lines, good at those, okay? Now, when I ask where it's pushing, right? When you turn in, does the car respond? When I go down the straightaway and I lift and I brake and then I turn, okay, we're assuming you're using the brakes. Bear with me, okay? We're gonna get to brakes being a tuning tool, okay? But I lift, I brake in a straight line. So like I'm lifting back here, okay? I'm braking to here. I let off the brakes to turn in because I'm trying to only do one input at a time in the beginning, okay? So I brake here and then I turn in, all right? When I first turn in, does the car respond? Does it bite and turn the direction the wheels are going, okay? If it does, awesome. That's step one, right? Now, part of that is paying attention. If the front turns, does the rear follow? Do we get loose going in or do we just turn in, okay? The next point we need to pay attention to is, we're gonna say that we're using this point right here as our gas, okay? So we're just turning here and coasting while turning, okay? This is where we pick up the gas. So if the car turns in really good and it's biting through here, and then I get to this point and the car starts washing out. So my corner starts doing this, okay? Now, I need to pay attention. If the car starts washing out on me in the center of the corner, okay? If I turn the wheel more, does the car follow or does it start pushing worse, right? So I need to use that input. Use the steering wheel. Does it follow what I'm doing? If it does, if I add more steering wheel and it comes through here, well, I don't actually have a push. I just need to change the way the steering wheel's going, okay? So I need to know in the center, is the car pushing and does it respond to the steering wheel? Then, once we get past the center and we get back in the gas, right here, we get back in the gas. This is where almost everybody, okay? Almost everybody says, I get the gas, and it just goes straight to the wall. Well, you can fix that, but that's what we need to know. If we're good here, we're good here, we're good here. We get in the gas, the car pushes. And it's not going to look like that. It'll actually look something more like that. Okay. But the car pushes when I get in the gas. All right. Cool. When it pushes when you get in the gas, if you lift a little bit, does it stop pushing? You turn the wheel a little bit. And listen, guys and gals, if you find yourself, car starts pushing, and you're like, oh crap, it won't turn anymore. Okay. First off, do yourself a favor and all those around you. Slow down a little bit. Okay. Because if you go full lock left, and the car isn't turning, it's not handling for shit. You're going way too fast. Right. And if your philosophy, okay, let's say this is your corner. Okay. If your philosophy is to come in here and turn the wheel, so you turn in and then you just slide up here until you either hit a car, or this is typical on dirt, or the cushion, and then you kind of go this way off. That doesn't make you a good driver. That makes you an asshole with a big motor. Okay? We're taking a little bit of a controversial stance. This is not the line of a good driver. This is the line of somebody who has a lot of horsepower and not a lot of handling. If you do this on pavement, same thing applies. Not a good driver, not a good setup, whole bunch of horsepower. Okay? So, if you find yourself coming in at the bottom, almost hitting someone or something up here, and then coming off again once you get the gas, again, no buenos. Okay? So, full lock left. When I talk about if you turn the wheel, does it respond? I'm talking about, I normally go from here to here. If I go from here to here, does it respond? I'm not talking, well, I went in there and I went half a turn, and then I went another full turn and nothing happened. Yep. Because once you get past the point, it's not going to grip. Okay. So, the line used, yeah. Probably too much throttle, not enough steering. Yeah. Yep. That's literally, yeah. I'm not gonna say the rest of it, but yeah, I've seen that line in a lot of races. Okay. A lot of races. But small inputs should yield small results. Okay. Big inputs should yield big results. If you have a big input and nothing happens, you don't need a big input. You need to fix something else. Okay. However, before we can fix a push, you need this information. Is it when you turn in? Is it the entry? Is it the center? Is it the exit? Is it your gas point? Okay. For the most part, this is the one everybody struggles with. I would say 80 to 85% of how can my car be better, or it pushes, is a result of I get in the gas and it pushes. Okay. 80%. All right. So we're going to cover that first. All right. Now, the reason that all this matters, and the reason why you have a push and why it'll push when you get in the gas, is you have this thing called available traction. Okay. This represents 100% available traction, right? If I have it divided in half with turning and gas, acceleration, it's a long word, we're going to go gas, okay? That means 50% of the available traction of that tire, which the amount of that varies on surface and tire and all of that. We're not going to get into that part, but just know that there's a limit to how much you can turn and how much you can go, and it's 100%. Okay? If 50% is turning and 50% is gas, right? Well, if I want to turn better, I need to have more of that devoted to turning. Okay? Or all of it devoted to turning. Okay? If I am in the center of the corner and I want to pick up the gas right here, okay? The issue is I might be using 80% of my available traction to hold that corner, to hold that line in that corner. And if I get on the gas and I give it more than, this is 80. If I give this 40%, right? I don't know about you guys, but that math I was told I would never use, right? Well, 40 plus 80 is 120, okay? And what that means is one of these things, gas or turning, is going to stop working as well as it could because we don't have 120, we have 100. So if I give it 40% gas, that means I have 60% for turning, okay? So if I was to back that down, and instead of giving her all the beans, okay, I still got 80% for turning. Instead of giving it 40% of gas, because I'm all like, right there on the loud pedal, if I just kind of ease into it, and we do 20% for the gas, all of a sudden we're back at 100. That thing's going to come off the corner really, really well, okay? Now, where guys or gals can be really, really fast is that if in this portion of your corner, okay, if I only need 40 to 60%, and I can get in the gas, and I can have that, 60 to 40% available traction go towards the gas, I'm going to rocket off that corner. Because I'm not making peak horsepower, I'm probably not making peak torque right when I get in the gas. You kind of want to if you have the traction, but that's the sweet spot, is being able to have that mixture where you're not overpowering the tires with gas, you're not overpowering the tires with cornering, okay? Now, that 100%, okay, you can change what that 100% means, right? What typically happens when you get in the gas is that you transfer weight, okay? And that is what can cause the problem. I don't want to say usually, because I've seen quite a lot of you drive, and sometimes it really is you don't have the available traction, okay, to be getting in the gas, right? But if I go into a corner and I throw the car in, that weight is going to transfer over onto the right front, okay? It's just physics, because when I turn the wheels, that car wants to continue going this direction. So I turn the wheels, okay? The car pushing this direction, that tire, and all the way to that car is trying to maintain that arc. That tire is responsible for that turn in and that bite, okay? So your car is going to go in, and it is going to, you're going to turn, it's going to bite on that right front, and then it's either going to turn or push, but it's going to lay over on that right front, okay? If you have the car sprung properly with springs and bump stops and all that, it'll go the proper amount. It'll give you the proper amount of traction. It'll bite, it'll turn, it'll go. Well, once it's bit fully and it's turning, it transfers some of that weight to the right rear. Right rear is the second one to react. As weight moves to the right front, it comes off left front, left rear. As it transfers back to the right rear, again, it takes weight off left front, right rear, or left rear. It's just the physics of how the car moves, okay? Now, if you get in the gas, those front tires, instead of just trying to turn, they actively start biting, and your weight is going to transfer from the front of the car to the back. But because we're still trying to turn, the weight, wherever your center of gravity is, if this is your car, okay, these are your tires, right? Your center of gravity is right here. When you go into the corner, all of this above that center of gravity is trying to go this way as your tires are trying to go that way, okay? That continues until you're straight again, right? So the weight is always going to be trying to go that direction. The higher up it is, the more it's going to go. If I get the gas, I have that force plus with my tires biting, they're trying to claw forward and it's going to transfer weight to the back of the car. Okay. So when I get in the gas, we're already bit on the right front. We get in the gas, we transfer weight, the left front comes up. Okay. And there is no faster way to get a car to push, get a front wheel drive car to push, than to take weight off left front. Okay. I mean, there's probably better other ways, but when you get in gas, taking weight off from the left front will make it push because you always have 100% traction, but you might have a traction circle that's that big on the right front because it's got weight over there. It's biting down. It's digging in. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Your left front, when you go into the corner, might look like that. It's still turning. It's still hooking. It's still going, right? But if you get in the gas and that weight transfers back here to the right rear, you suddenly might have a circle that looks like that. I'm not going to draw a smaller circle on there because I don't need those comments. But if I went from this allowing me to turn to having this, and I'm trying to split it in the middle with this half being turning and this half being acceleration, I have no chance of that tire being as effective. Okay. But if I could prevent losing that traction on that tire and I can keep that circle the same size and now I split it, stand a lot better chance. Okay. Because I personally, in a corner, do not buy into the drive wheel. See, when you get in the gas, the right front drives and it tries to turn you. No. Okay. Torque steer is a very real thing. When you are straight and you get in the gas, it will want to turn you one way or the other. But when you're turning, power will almost always want to go to the tire with less traction. Okay. Almost always. I have never in 17 years of racing watched somebody spin the right front when the left front was biting. Ever. Had two people tell me they had so much horsepower in the center of the corner, I got the gas and the right front started smoking this drive tire. I've somehow never seen that car race. So, right? What I have seen hundreds of times is somebody get in the gas and absolutely one tire fire annihilate the left front and push all the way up to the wall. I have watched that hundreds of times. I probably watched two dudes do it 100 times, right? Because they go into the corner, car doesn't work very well anyways. They get in the gas, and that tire is now trying to do 100% gas versus even bitty, and it just annihilates that tire, okay? If you have a welded differential, if you have a limited slip, the idea is you're not sending all that power to here. You are sending some over to here, helps you bite, sag, or all that kind of stuff. There's some ways to trick it. But if you have an open diff, or you have the type of limited slip that will still send power to a tire with no weight on it, you will annihilate the left front if you take enough weight off from it, okay? And you're going to be like, Todd, how do we stop weight from coming off that tire? Well, first, try to not have your car do that, okay? I understand on dirt, it's oftentimes necessary to get the bite in the right front to get it to actually turn, right? But if you lay that thing way over, you get into gas and it goes, you take all the weight off. I mean, your car is fixed. It's not like you can be on the right front, drop the right rear, and keep the left front where, like weight moves dynamically. Okay. What happens, right? So, let's see how much. Okay. At 34% battery left. We started with 54, right? So, but if you can stop that weight from dropping on that right rear, you can keep it on the left front, which is how you get some of these dirt guys that are driving around with a car that looks like this through the pits. Where, well, actually, it'd be more like, with the right rear just, 9.5 feet in the air, laid down on the left side, and then when they go into the corner, it just goes, it never comes on that right rear at all. They're just trying to keep all that weight on the left front. That's 100% what's happening. Okay. By not allowing the weight to transfer back to that right rear is how you can keep weight on the left front. Right. It is the fastest, easiest way to do that. Okay. So if you're at the racetrack and you can't swap your spring out, okay, if you have coilovers, it is as easy as pushing that spring up. So you make the coilover longer on the right rear. Or you can do it on the left front, which is usually how I prefer to do it. Okay. But you can make that right rear taller, effectively makes it stiffer. It's a good adjustment. But say you can't do that, all right, because you don't have that adjustability. You can cheat it in a couple ways. One is with tire pressure. And I know they're like, Todd, you told me it had to be perfect and that you would go off tire temps and all that. I would. But if I got a car that's really tight and I don't have a lot of adjustment otherwise, you can start adding air to that right rear tire because the tire squishes a certain amount based on air pressure. Okay. You add more air pressure, it gets taller, 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 and taller. There's obviously diminishing returns. If you have the opportunity to run different size tires and you have taller tires, you could put a taller tire on right rear and it will raise that corner up. It will put more weight on left front. Okay. It will have an added benefit of probably helping turn in, but a stiffer, taller spring in right rear will help fight that push off. Okay. That is like the number one reason a car pushes coming off the corner is it just transfers the weight off the left front. Okay. So when someone says you must run a 700-pound spring in the right rear, it won't turn. You must put a V6 spring in the right rear, or you must pump it full of grease and make it not work because I don't know what I'm doing. Right? They don't understand that. They don't understand the reasoning behind why you need a stiffer right rear. They just know stiff right rear, car better. Okay. I ran shorter, stiffer springs in the rear, but I put it on the bump stop. So it had a really stiff spring really quickly. I ran stiffer, taller springs that it doesn't touch a bump stop. Okay. You can adjust it however you need. Now you can add spring rubbers if it's legal. Spring spacers kind of deal. You can do that. Bump stops, stiffer tire, taller tire, right? All of those are acceptable ways to get more weight on left front, right? So you can add a little bit of air pressure. You can add a little bit more coilover. You can add a spring spacer to right rear. Those are all things that should help when you get in the gas pushing off. Okay. Now, if the car won't turn in, okay, we're going to back up to there. I get off the gas. I brake to what I believe is the speed I need for the turn in. I turn the wheel and it just wants to keep going this way. Okay. Well, number one, and this is legitimately the most common cause that I have seen for a car not wanting to turn in, is you're just going too fast. Okay. Slow down. Like, I have seen guys who claim car won't turn in. It doesn't matter what I do, the car just won't turn in. Right? They're not braking back here. They're not lifting and braking back here. They're lifting here, turning in 5 to 8 mile an hour faster than they should be. And there is nothing that they can do that is going to make that car turn in, because they needed to brake back here, not up here. Okay. You can always get back in the gas sooner if you get on the brake sooner. What you can't do is brake later and get in the gas where you should or sooner. Okay. General rule of thumb. Okay. And I guess I'm not I just keep repeating what Billy Bob and Joe Blows have to do because it sounds like they know what they're talking about. Oh, dude. In all seriousness, man, the amount of times that I see, like, what you got to do? I swapped out this and I ran that. If you do that, I won 19 championships. It's just like, oh, I'm fast everywhere I go. You get drugged anywhere around me. Like, God, I want to race there. Right? Anyways, I digress. We can do a whole thing about that. Okay. So if it won't turn in on you, slow down. Okay. Lift earlier. Maybe use that pedal in the middle. That's the brakes. Okay. Because you can say what you want. If you race up here around me and you use no brakes at all, I know 3-4 guys are going to whoop your ass. Okay. I don't care how fast your car is. I don't care how much motor you got. You are going to get taken in the corner about 6-7 car lengths deeper than you know what to do with. You're going to get drugged. Okay. Just telling you right now. We got tracks up here. You don't touch the brakes, you're gonna get passed. Okay. But down at Bristol Motor Speedway, you can get by with no brakes. You buy without lifting. That's a different animal, right? We don't normally race those every time. Okay. Just use brakes. Lift earlier. Okay. Get off the gas. Slow down your entry speed. That will cure 85-90% of you guys that it won't turn in. Just slow down. Okay. Now, if it won't turn in and you keep slowing down, and once it does bite, you can because I've had this before and I've seen this before where it won't turn in, but the moment you get that arc going, you can damn near get back to the gas all the way back here because it actually turns. It just doesn't bite initially. Okay. Most of the time, I personally, when I see that, what's happened is that somebody has the right front really, really, really stiff, and the tire is the only spring doing anything. Your tire is a spring, okay? So if you go into the corner, car wants to keep going straight, right? If you turn the wheel, and your car will not actually transfer any weight because it physically can't move at all, and it just goes in there and it's just on that tire. That tire doesn't have this traction bubble. Weight equals traction. Okay, it really does. That's why the dirt guys. It's why loading that right front helps so much, is because it digs down in and bites. The more weight you add, the hotter the rubber can get, the quicker it can get. You can overload the tire. Okay, for the most part, if you go in, if you turn, and the car is so stiff, there's no weight transfer over there, and you got the tire so pumped up it doesn't deflect, you don't have this traction circle. You have this traction circle. Okay? You need just enough weight movement, okay, to be able to get the most available traction. If you have a super stiff spring that immediately gets on the bump stop, no movement, all that, chances are the car's not going to turn in that great. A lot of our tires can't take that initial abuse. Okay. Tie down setups on like late models and stuff where that front end slams down. Part of the reason that works so well for them is because they can keep the weight down. They keep the weight on the right front. They don't let it come off. So when they go to turn in, the weight's there. If you're going down the straightaway in a front wheel drive and you've got the right front way up here in the air because you're cruising down and it's super stiff, when you get in the corner, it can't put weight there. Okay. So if slowing down don't help, you might need to let some weight transfer over there. Okay. You might need to let the air pressure down. You might need to soften the springs, pull the spring rubber, something to that effect. That'll help it to turn in. Okay. The opposite can also be true in that you could be way too soft in that corner. If you go in, and this is especially true on pavement, the amount of times I've watched somebody go in and the car goes, right? You can be overloading the tire immediately. If your tire goes, if you go into the corner, right, and you turn, and that tire goes from this to this, like immediately, you won't get any turn in because you are going to pass, your traction circle. This is where I wish I was really good with like 3D animations. Like you're going to be on a straightaway, your traction circle is going to look like this. You're going to turn the wheel. It's going to get big again because it's going to try to turn, but then it is immediately going to drop right back down because you're going to just skip right past it. You're going to grow to this and then shrink right back down instead of growing to this and staying there. Okay. So you can go in, you can put too much weight on, your tire's going to deflect way too much. Okay. And you're just going to go from a small to a big, back to a small traction circle quickly. Okay. So it's about finding that sweet spot of allowing the weight to transfer, allowing the tire to deflect enough without deflecting too much and putting too much weight over there. Okay. Some of the dirt guys that I've seen, they can do really well. They can get that weight to transfer quickly by having the car soft, but they have it set where once it transfers, it can stay there and they can time, they have it, and it's not like they're sitting at home with the 7-post shaker trying to time this, but the setup just works. Their driving style works that they can go in, they can upset the car, get it to turn in, get it to bite, and finish that turn when the traction's available without going over, without going under, and they can use that to their advantage. Okay. So it is possible to have a really soft setup that can bite and get you to turn in and stay there. But oftentimes you're just going to go too quick. Okay. So your turn in, slow down a little bit if you need to. Back your braking points up a little bit. Make sure you're not too stiff. Okay. Make sure you're not too soft. If you're too stiff at the racetrack and you can't take your spring rubber out, like say you don't have any spring rubbers, you just got a 1,200-pound spring, right? Well, first off, try to find a not 1,200-pound spring if you can. Okay. Secondly, loosen up your tire pressure some. Let that spring absorb some. Okay. If you have coilovers, you can go down on it some. However, you're still going to transfer that weight on the right front. So you're either going to over travel or hit your bump a little bit too early on the right front. At the track, if you're way too stiff, air pressure is kind of the best way to adjust from there unless you want to change the spring. Okay. You're better to be a little bit too soft so you can add spring rubbers or add a little tire pressure or something like that. Like in my opinion, you're better to be a little too soft to start than too hard spring rate wise. Okay. Now, once you get past that initial turn in, okay, this section until you get in the gas from here to here, okay, encompassing the center. So, man, Todd, I lift, I brake, I go in, I'm able to turn in, I'm able to go in deeper, I turn in, and the car goes a quarter of the way, and then it just comes out from underneath me. I'm not on the gas, I'm not on the brakes, I'm just turning, I'm kind of holding the wheel steady. I turn more, it doesn't really bite, it doesn't really get worse, but that, okay. This is where we start to play with setup, okay? In my opinion, in my experience, that's where setup comes into play a little bit more, right? Because we've transferred the weight, we're on the tires. Now is when things like the hidden geometry, so your control arm angles, your Ackerman, that kind of stuff, really kind of comes into play, all right? This period here, I'll be honest with you, the first thing I'm going to adjust is rear steer. Okay. Rear steer can also, all right. So we'll answer Ben's here in the question, and Scott says, if you use bump stops, the spring rates really matter as much. Yes. So we'll back up slightly to that. If you use bump stops, the spring rates will matter as much. Yes, because It's overall effective spring rate, right? And this is a very, very, very quick, brief view of that. If I need 1,500 pounds of spring to stop my car right here, if I have a 1,000-pound spring and a 500-pound bump stop to meet that, awesome. If I have a 100-pound spring and a 500-pound bump stop, it's going to travel a lot farther, okay, before it hits that 1,500. So if you change spring rate, but you continue to use the same bump stop, you can change how much weight it takes to hit that bump stop, and then you still have effective spring rate there, okay? So it really does matter, but if you're relying mainly on bump stop, then you want just enough spring to keep you high enough to travel to touch your bump, okay? So Ben's question, we'll cover this one here in just a minute. So what would you need to do? What would we need to do if we are tight going in and coming off? Well, I hate to say it, probably slow down. Because if it doesn't turn here, and it doesn't turn here, and it doesn't turn here, you're trying to go too fast. You've got a myriad of problems, but then you're going to want to try to go back to basics, right? However, we talked about how to make it turn in better. We talked about how to make it come off a little better. We're here. And one thing that can help, it can mess with your turn in if you have excessive, but it can really help your exit because you're putting weight on that corner, is rear steer, right? And this is one of those I love. I love the guys. It's a crutch. If you need rear steer, you ain't good at setting it up. Do you know they made a rule in NASCAR back in the day how much they could camber and tow the rear ends? Because the NASCAR teams found that if they cambered the right rear flange and the left rear flange the opposite way, and they started towing them sons of bitches, cars would go faster. You'd watch those cars going down the track because it works. We only have to turn one direction, so we can set the car up to make this arc. F1 has tow out. They can change the way tires deflect using different materials. They can change the toe in the corner with the way it deflects, okay? Other motorsports, they might have a slight bit of toe out because the weight's going to go there, right? Kind of thing. But if they only had to turn one direction, they could tow it a little bit more, okay? So part of the reason why that matters is that if you have your rear wheels facing this way and this way, they want to go here, right? And, you know, they want to go straight. And if you turn it a little bit, you're like, well, Todd, that doesn't seem like it's going to go over here. Yeah, but you put weight on it, it catches, and it wants to follow that circle. I know it's goofy, and I did a terrible job just explaining it. I really did. I know that. I apologize. Okay? But when you lay weight on that right rear in this area, it wants to follow that arc. Because in all seriousness, your tires are actually pointed more like this. So if you add a little rear steer, it'll actually want to follow the arc, okay? A little bit of rear steer. You can do both wheels. You can do the left or right rear wheel, okay? I know some guys are like, you need reverse rear steer. Sure, if it works for you, okay? How much is too much, Todd? You'll know. I promise you, you'll know, okay? Rear steer to me is 100% a feel, okay? I've said this before, me personally, people don't always believe me. I don't measure my rear steer because the front's easy. The front doesn't matter if you have tires like this. When you go down the straightaway, this one is going to lean in and this one's going to lean out, and they are going to even out. So you have the same amount here as you do here, okay? Does not matter, left or right, they even out, right? But in a axle that doesn't steer, if I have this one here and this one here, it always stays the same, okay? But the thing is that this could be 1 inch toe difference from here to here. However, this could be 0. But that thing's going to go like that down the straightaway, okay? Because that's just going to steer that way, right? I aim to have my left rear, because the neons are independent. I aim to have my left rear fairly straight. Maybe towed in just a little bit. Towed out. By toe out, I do mean towed to the outside wall, away from the infield. So both will face, if I'm staying at the back of the car, both of them the front will point to the right on both of them. Okay. I aim for straight, a little bit out, and then I adjust right rear. Ooh, now the rain's coming. I adjust right rear based on feel. When I go to Bristol, I have a lot less rear steer in it. When I go to a place like Spartan or Oregon Oil, I have more rear steer. Okay. And some of you are going to want to make the argument, well, Todd, if you're going down the straightaway, you got one tire like this, you got one tire like that. That bad boy's scrubbing the whole way. You're losing so much speed. I don't disagree with you. I'm losing speed because of that. But if I lose 1 mile an hour down the straightaway, but I gain 5 in the corner, net positive. Okay. I've never lost enough straightaway speed to notice by towing out more and more and more. However, I've made it impossible to drive in the corner by adding more and more and more, right? So you are going to have to find the amount of rear steer that works for you. What I'm going to try to do with the new car that I'm building is I'm going to try to have a system that's in the center of the car that I can measure right and left independently of each other so that I can actually determine total toe out plus thrusting. Okay. If you don't know that your left rear is arrow straight, okay, it's really hard to measure toe in the back and have repeatable results. Okay. Because again, I have this one towed out, center line to here, we'll say is a 1/2 inch, right? And difference. So it's longer here than here. So 1/2 inch difference. Okay. This side, I could have be 0 difference. So I'm a 1/2 inch to toe out, 8/16. Okay. But if I have this one, again, with a 1/2 inch down here, I'm at 0 toe because this length is the same as this length because this is a 1/2 inch longer and this is a 1/2 inch longer. So this distance and this distance are the same. This distance and this distance are the same. So I have 0 toe, right? So using toe boards in the rear for me has just never worked because I can't guarantee that my left front tracks straight. Okay. Todd, how do I adjust rear steer? Well, that depends on the type of car. Truly. They're all different. Okay. If possible, if it is okay by your rules, try to add an adjustable system. So on the Neons, we run Heim joints and radius rods. They're legal most places. There are aftermarket companies that make links for the Neons, which still have rubber bushings in the end, and they have threaded pieces in the middle, which make them adjustable. Okay. From the factory, the Neons have this neat little thing where it has, because the Neon, so if you're looking at it from above, there's a bolt in the body, there's a bolt in the control arm or in the knuckle, and there's 2 arms that go like this. Okay. To tow it, to tow it out, I need this corner to go out, this one to come in. Okay. It's easy. I need to make this link longer, this link shorter. Right. The Neons have this fancy little cam adjuster thing. It's pretty neat. It doesn't let you do it much, but what it does is it has where the bushing is, it has a larger bushing and a smaller bolt, and then there's an eccentric which goes over it, which is there, but it has a little deal here. Okay, and when you turn that eccentric, it actually, so the bolt will be pushed against the backside here if the eccentric is in the front, and it'll pull that arm this direction so you can effectively tow it in. Fun facts, they only put these on the rear side of the Neon. So we go back to, you've got the 2 links with the bolts through them, and only put that adjuster there. A little bit of gray area stuff. If you take that link with that adjuster and you put it in the front, you can make this one go this direction. You add one of these there. You can make it go that direction. You can double the amount of toe adjustment from the factory using all factory parts. And most tech guys won't know that, right? Easy peasy. All factory. In this situation where I have limited amount, I won't make the left rear straight. I'll actually toe the left rear as well to try to give me that extra turn. Okay. Now, another thing you can do is you can cut that link, weld it back together a little bit shorter. Again, tech guy might not know if you do it well enough, right? But let's say you have something like, all right. Let me just check these real quick here. All right. I will address a couple of those because, like, what about using throttle to help the car rotate? We're going to get the throttle and brakes. Okay. What if I'm ridiculously loose as soon as I left the throttle? Middle and exit feels great, but it's pretty sketchy on entry. Jason says, I'm a firm believer in rear steer. You get to thinking about it. It helps the right front do more without overdoing it. Yeah. And then Charles says, Friday, my car was snappy loose midway through the corner. I dropped the air pressure in the left front tire, which helps. Okay. I probably went the opposite way. But anyways, glad it worked, right? Again, what I might have done isn't necessarily the end all be all. Okay. So keep that in mind. Right. Now, if you have a solid rear axle, so say you have it like a Cavalier, okay, you have your plate, which is here. You have your spindle, right, which has a plate which bolts onto it. Okay. If we're looking at this from above, okay, I want to make that angle this way. Well, all I need to do where these two bolt together is I just need to shim the front and not the back. And so that plate will tighten up at an angle. Okay. And that's 90 degrees off from it. Now I have some rear steer. Okay. The other part of that is if you're looking at it from the back, so you got your plate, you got the one that it bolts to, you got your spindle. If you add a shim on the bottom, but not the top, that leans that way, goes that way. Now you have some camber. Okay. So you're going to have to shim it to get it a little bit of toe, a little bit of rear steer. Okay. Now, if somebody goes, hey, that's why I watch Learn. Hey, I try to make things work well, but I always try to give you, Chris. This is why I'm showing you guys. This is why I don't like the word must, because I'm trying to give you the science behind why all this works, so that you can figure it out from yourself why what you're doing might work or not. Right. So if you have one of them solid axles, okay, let's say your axle comes over and then up here, and this is where you have that plate. Okay. It'd be actually more like this, right? So you have that solid plate. This gray area stuff. You might be able to kink or bend this area to add a little like if that thing comes up this way, or if you're looking at it from above, and let's say it goes like this, and then there's your plate. If you kink it there, where maybe it comes this way a little bit, okay, you can bend and tweak some stuff. It is harder to do, harder to add camber nap with a solid rear axle. So your Cavaliers, like your Nissan, stuff like that. Very doable. It's just harder to do. Okay. Very doable. Shadows, Daytona, stuff like that. Same kind of deal. We had to do the same where we'd shim it. You can use actual shims. You can use washers. So harder to change at the track, but doable. Okay. So that's how you can add rear steer with that. Right. Now, big fan of rear steer there, right? If it's pushing from here to here, turns in good, starts pushing, okay? Another thing that I really want you to start messing with is your toe as well, your front toe. Because that might be that it turns in because it laid over and it's biting on the right front. But once your right front's bit in, the more help the left front can give it, the more speed you can carry. So that initial turn in's putting the weight on the right front, getting it to bite. Your left front starts doing more work. It's not doing as much as it can. It's going to want to push something. Okay. So if you can get the toe proper, okay, that can really help that corner. Now, the other thing to consider too is that some of your hidden geometry might be really far off. Your control arm angles. If this is your ball joint, and this is where your control arm mounts, okay, right? Your control arms should be level, or they should run downhill. Okay. If they run uphill, the side load force is going to drive that corner down. Okay. So you can actually teeter your car and add way more weight to the right front by allowing that to run uphill because you've lowered it too much. Okay. So to stop this from happening, this is where that total overall effective spring rate comes into. Man, I need 1,500 pounds to keep my control arm just level or just below it, right? Okay. So if my total effective spring rate of 1,500 pounds doesn't kick in until I'm an inch past, I need more spring rate. So I might need a stiffer bump. I might need bump stops. I might need a stiffer spring. I might need packers on the bump stops. I might need spring rubbers. But I need to add more spring to that corner until it allows me to stop here. Okay. This is something I see a lot. I got made fun of for a while on how tall my cars were, right? When I first started racing, the first few years racing the Neon, way back 2010, 2011, 2009, I had guys I was racing against that had their cars slammed to the ground. They were practically bottomed out to begin with. Their control arm angles were running way uphill. Car couldn't roll over a lot because it didn't have room to run on the springs, right? I show up, I'm like 6.5 inches in the air with ride height. Okay. I've got way more fender gap than all they do. But the bump stops that I had stopped the control arm at level. And car would bite, car would hook in the center. I started passing cars. I was fast. It worked. And slowly, it sounds really arrogant, but I've talked to guys from that era that were taking cues from what I was doing. So I have documented this. Slowly, all the cars started getting taller until we all had roughly the same ride heights again. So even when we had like minimum ride heights, they were still too low. Guys were raising them up. And it got to where there was a big period of time where the cars were higher. And talking to some guys from that era, they were seeing what I was doing with the car way up, and they would talk to me. I would explain, like, this is why I'm doing it. And they started raising their cars. Car got more consistent, more, faster in the corner. They liked it better, and they kept going till they found that rate of return, and the cars were taller. And it was because in the end of it, they were level or running downhill with their control arm. Okay. This is not an adjustment you can make of the track as far as, your control arm angles, as far as, changing ball joints or mounting points or anything like that. But what you can do is stop the car from going too far. Okay. So you can change how far the car can roll over on the right front to avoid this happening. Okay. So something else to consider is that you might be rolling over too far because your initial turn in has that bite, but then you're too far over and you're going to continue that through the centers. Okay. Now, one other adjustment that I like to do in this area, which really, really helps me, is the sway bar. God, you can't run a sway bar, man. I put a sway bar on. I slow down 7.5 seconds. I hate the sway bar. I don't run a sway bar. You got to take it off. Cool. Okay. Works for you, right? I have bigger ones made. I sell them. We're the Pro Drive shop. They're not listed yet, but give me a call or shoot me a message if you need one, right? I run a bigger sway bar, and I preload it. And you're going to be like, well, Todd, why? Because it stops the body from rolling over. Keeps weight on the left front, okay? If I add more preload to the car, it takes a push out from here to here. Helps me turn in a little bit, but it takes that push out a little bit, okay? Now, if I'm on dirt and I want the car to roll over and get the weight on the right front, a sway bar is going to prevent that, okay? So if you have a track that you need to lay the car over and you need grip on the right front because you need weight there, the sway bar is not going to be good for you, okay? But if you're like me, you're on pavement, you got bump stops and coilovers, and you can pick your spring rates, and I'm on asphalt, and I got sticky tires, A sway bar is going to help keep that car planted flat, not overload the tire. Okay. And when you go, hey Todd, how do you preload it? Okay. How do you preload it? Right? Very simple. Okay. It depends on whether your sway bar is above or below the control arm. Okay. If like the actual angle of the sway bar does not change. What changes is whether you have the links longer or shorter. Okay. Because this is easiest shown with my fingers. All right. This is the right front. This is my right hand. The left front. This is my left hand. Okay. When I go into the corner, if I have them equal, what happens is the right front is going to go up into the car. The left front is going to fall out of the car because it's my right front. The car is going to roll over on the right front. Realistically, the control arm, the ball joint, and all that, like it doesn't actually move. The car moves on it, right? Weird concept. But when it drops over, that comes up into the car. And as that weight transfers, right front, left front, as that weight transfers, that tire drops out. Okay. So when you go into the corner, that right front goes up into the car, left front drops out of the car. Okay. It looks like this. Okay. If your control arm is above your sway bar, so your control arm, sway bar, okay, you want to pick the right side up higher and you want the left side to go lower. And when that happens, you need the right link to get shorter and you need the left link to get longer. Okay. If the sway bar is above the control arm, okay, you want the same exact thing. You want the right side to be higher and the left side to be lower. So I need the short link on the left side. I need the long link on the right side. Okay. If you go, Todd, mine is attached to the strut, or mine's attached to the knuckle, or mine's attached a different way. The easiest way to remember which way you need to go is that you need the right side to be higher and the left side to be lower. So whatever that means for your links, you want the right side to go higher in the air, left side to go lower. Okay. The reason is that travel in the beginning. If you do it the opposite way, okay, that sway bar is actively trying to push this down and pull this up. And once it hits neutral, it's not doing anything because it's just unloaded. And then it starts acting. Okay. So it's actively trying to get you to roll over before it engages. Okay. So if you want to make your sway bar bigger with an adjustment, you just change the length of the links. Okay. Now, a couple easy ways to do this. And you can do this with all stock links. Okay. Typically, sway bar, control arm. Okay. You're going to have a bolt that runs through the middle. Right? Bolt head, nut. Okay. You're going to have a washer. You're going to have a rubber bushing. You're going to have a rubber bushing. You're going to have a washer. You're going to have a rubber bushing. You're going to have a washer. You're going to have rubber bushing. You're going to have a washer. And you're going to have a tube in between them. Okay? Make these a little thicker. There's your bar. There's your control arm. This is how they are delivered from the factory. Let's stick that bolt up a little bit with some threads on. Okay? That's how they're delivered from the factory. Okay? Now, if you're like, Todd, I don't have that. I have the other style, which is like a ball joint, a link, and then like a ball joint or a ball joint kind of thing. It's a lot harder to cheat, especially if they're plastic. Okay? They're metal, it's pretty easy. You just cut that section out, weld that point. Okay? Harder to do with the track, but you can do it that way. Or there might be some longer or shorter, right? But we're going with the traditional sway bar link, right? Well, the neat part is that, and I got away by doing this because my tech man really enjoyed my ingenuity. If I want to make this and this closer together, I need all that stuff in the middle to not be there. Well, first thing you can do, which is super easy, the length of this spacer, just take it out. Okay, take this spacer and put it between this washer and the nut. Because now I've added the length of this to here, and I've moved those closer together. Simple. If I want them closer than that, I can take that bushing, that washer, all of that in the middle, and I can actually move it all up here, squeeze it together. These are going to get closer together. I can make the argument with any tech man that unless the rules state stock link in stock configuration, I have a stock sway bar link. I have all the stock pieces. I'm just an idiot and I didn't put it together right. Okay. So I can make a link shorter. Super easy. Okay. Now you're like, Todd, I can't make it shorter because the control arm and the sway bar, they're going to hit. But what I could do is I could make it longer. Well, that one's easy. You go down to your local auto parts store and you find a link that has this bit that's longer and a longer bolt. You install it. You just got an aftermarket replacement one. Okay. And what you can do for that tech man, if you need this gap to stay the same, you go buy that longer sway bar link. You buy a pair of them because usually it's sold a pair. And all you do is you take this piece and you cut it to that length. And then you take the cutoff piece and you put it up here. That way you still have the stock link. It's all there. It's just in a different configuration. Right? Now, fun fact. If you need this link shorter, okay, because your sway bar and your control arm are going to try to pull apart, okay, you don't actually need all of this stuff because the force is against here and against here, pushing these two apart. Okay. So if you do that, say you're like me, where you run the outlaw stuff or the traveling series stuff, and you have no such rule about stock stuff like this. Okay. What I like to do is I will remove all of that stuff. Okay. So you still want a bushing top, still want a bushing bottom, because this stuff moves. You need some way for there to be some compliance. Okay. But when I run that bolt in the middle, I don't run a shouldered bolt, right? With the threads from like here to here. Okay. I'll run a bolt that's threaded the whole way. Because the cool part is that I could start out with a stock configuration so that my sway bar is neutral, right? And then I go out, man, I'd really like to try that sway bar thing Todd was talking about. Cool. When you come in, these have pressure pushing out, no big deal. All I do is I hold that nut with a wrench and I turn the bolt down here and I make this shorter. So now my sway bar is actually up here. And the cool part is that I can go a little bit and then a little bit and then a little bit. As long as they're not touching, you don't want them to touch. As long as they're not touching, as long as nothing touches, I can keep going until it, I can preload it all the way up there. And that becomes adjustable. So that's an adjustment I can make, right? I can come in, lay down under the car with a ratchet and an end wrench or two ratcheting end wrenches, and I can loosen it or I can tighten it however I want. You can also do the same thing for the longer side if that would be easier for you. The trick is that you do still need the bushing. You need the washer, okay? So bushing and washer. But if this part is threaded in the middle, what you can do is you can actually put a jam nut right here and right here, leave nothing in the middle. I do suggest that you still have a nut on the top because you don't want this thing accidentally springing apart. But you just back that nut off a bunch so it's up here, so you've got room to move. You grab that nut and you just start cranking on it and you just start pushing those apart. So you can make the long side also threaded and adjustable like that if that works space-wise for you. Oh, You can change your sway bar preload at the track. Now, if you're like, Todd, I have it all set up like that, and I want to make that adjustment at the track, just unbolt it at the track and rearrange all that stuff. Small tip, jack the right front of the car up, because your control arm, if your sway bar is under your control arm, if you jack the right side up, control arm is going to want to come down, the left front is going to want to go up, so your sway bar is going to want to go up. So you can actually pinch it together as you jack it up some to make it easier on yourself. If you have it the opposite way, just do it the opposite with the left front. Okay, so that's how you can adjust your sway bar at the track. Now, the last thing that I do want to talk about that you guys have asked about here, and we will cover, is how to use the other inputs to go faster or slower. Okay, so we can forget about all this right now because it's getting kind of complicated. Okay, if I get the gas and the car starts to want to push, okay, if I let off the gas, say I let off the gas all the way, okay, throttle body closes, air has to react, the engine loses power, my motor mounts become unloaded, the axles become unloaded, the tire becomes unloaded. There's a lot of stuff that just chain reacts, a lot of small movement. Okay. Then when I get back in the gas, I have that momentum switch of the air rushing in, power being made, motor mounts loading up, axles loading up, tires loading up. There's a delay. Okay. It might only be me and that, but there's a delay. What I can do to kill horsepower, again, we're talking about this traction circle. Okay. Traction circle. So if I need, for turning, right? And this is gas, okay? If I'm like this much too much gas, right? I won't change the traction of the tire if I use the brakes. And I know you're gonna be like, but Todd, braking, because that's the other thing too. If I'm trying to turn and I'm braking, right? Braking is a force that applies to the traction. Okay. The thing is, though, is that this force and this force can cancel each other out. Okay. So if I have this much too much gas, but I apply the brake here, I am canceling out that much gas, and all of this then turns back into turning. The amount of times that I have come off a corner and I have drugged the brakes a little bit, I could never even count. I have done it 30 out of 40 laps sometimes, right? And it's because I am toying with the entry point, I'm toying with the gas pickup point, I'm toying with the razor's edge of this traction circle, okay? At all times, I'm trying to find the razor's edge. As long as I'm not out front with a giant lead, okay? I'm playing with this, okay? So if I pick up the gas a little bit too early, I can drag the brake and cause that, cancel out that gas, and I can turn, okay? Another time that's helped me a lot is if I am coming up on somebody and I want to get a good run on them, but I need to turn under them just a little bit, I can get in the gas and I can apply more brake. And again, this cancels out. So this is more turn. So I can be accelerating. I need to turn under the guy, brake just a little bit. It'll give me a little bit more bite to turn in that last little bit under somebody. Okay. You can apply both of them equally. Now, here's another neat little trick that using the brake can do for you when you're on the gas. Because you have opposing forces, the wheels are trying to dig forward, the brake is trying to dig backwards, it can actually cancel out some of that weight transfer. Okay. So if I'm in the center of the corner and I get on the gas and it's wanting to push because I'm moving too much weight back there, right? By dragging the brakes a little bit when I get in the gas, it's stopping that weight transfer. Okay. Now, you can also use braking to change the way that weight is transferring on entry as well. Okay. If I'm going in and I am hard on the brakes, the car is going to dive on the front. Okay. But I need the car to turn. And again, traction circle, because if I don't have any gas, it's all brake, right? So I can go in, lift a little bit off the brake, turn in, and get that initial bite, but I'm still carrying a little bit too much speed. I'll drag the brake a little bit. It'll take some weight off the back some, and it'll help me turn in a little bit. Okay, it's trail braking. It's a difficult move to master if you're not very good. Okay. Now, the other thing is that if you have your rear brakes set up where that right rear is full strength and working hard, you stand a good chance of locking that brake up because you've transferred the weight off from that tire. And if you do that, your traction circle, it gets real small if that tire is not turning. Okay. So if you trail brake in, you have to be aware that that can happen. If you lock that brake up, it's going to want to snap on you. Okay. So if you find yourself being hard on the brakes, turning in, and it is walking loose on you real hard, there is a good chance you have too much right rear brake. Listen, if you need a way to avoid that, you've got drum brakes. There is a video on the channel where I kind of act like an idiot at the beginning. It's that G, baby. It's a good video. Shows you how you can pass tech. I've done it for 14 years. The original drum I did it to, backing plate, is on the car parked right outside this door. So it's still working. Okay. But you might have to limit that right rear brake because it'll want to snap around on you. Now, if you go into the corner and car's hooking pretty good, right? Get on the gas and it wants to transfer that weight. Well, if the car's really loose on you and you get in the gas, odds are if you transfer weight to the right rear, you're going to increase your traction circle from this to this, and it's going to want to be able to turn better. Okay. So you can use the gas, transfer weight to the right rear to get the rear end back under you. The fun thing is when you trail brake in and the car bites good, walks a little loose on you, but you know the front has the available traction. So you catch it, hook it hard left, stand on the gas, the front end bites, and that and the weight transfer puts the rear end back under you, and you are just dancing that thing through the corners. That's like my favorite thing. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. It's that dance of the razor's edge going in, and it's just a little bit too loose, and you got a little bit right in it. And mind you, I'm on pavement, so like we don't normally turn right, okay? But you dance in that, and then you just, it bites enough, you can turn and get in the gas and just rock it off the corner. That is arguably one of my favorite things in the car, is when I can make it do that dance, right? And I believe it was Jordan that asked, hey, what can I do to the car if I lift off the gas and I have to turn right to catch it? Okay. Jordan, I wish I had a better answer for you. Okay. Because Lucy, that car, I have in-car videos of me lifting and turning right because it just wanted to turn in and the rear would walk around. It did not matter how much rear steer I had. I changed master cylinders out and it worked better, but like I oftentimes think that car had a problem with the right front brake, grabbing. And when I would lift, it just wanted to grab that corner, which would rotate the car around. So it's usually that dance for me of just finding that edge. And honestly, I liked it a lot of times because you just go in, it catches, and you just whack, come off the corner. So I hate to say, yeah, you turn the steering wheel that much in my car in the corners way more than dancing. Yeah, I know. So Sean says, so instead of backing off the gas when the car is pushing, apply some brake to keep traction and not push. You can, okay? But I am going to warn you guys, right? If this is your corner, okay? If this is the area that you could pick up the gas, and you're picking up the gas over here, and it is just, okay, you are going to have to apply so much damn brake. You should just lift, okay? What I'm talking about is that slight bit, like you're digging, you come in, you're hitting the apex, you're coming off, and you're going to come out of the corner really well, right? You're going to come off just the right amount, but you're finding that you're going to come up here, you're going to catch the wall, but as you're coming off and you need it to be here, you can change that trajectory a little bit. If you are having to crank that wheel and it is just pushing like a bus, the brake trick can help, but it's a Band-Aid at that point, okay? Now, the other part of that is, you weirdos that only drive with 1 foot, you can't do that. You can turn the wheel and hit the brakes. You can turn the wheel and hit the gas, but you can't turn the wheel, hit the brakes, and the gas, okay? I am a huge advocate for using both feet. If possible, you should be left foot braking, okay? If I see something happening in front of me going down straightaway, and I have my right foot firmly planted on the gas pedal, and I go, oh crap, that's a wreck happening. I have to tell myself, lift your right leg, move it sideways, put it on the brake pedal, push the brakes. Now we're talking milliseconds because, brains work pretty fast, yours and mine, hopefully. But there's a delay because I got a big foot, big leg, right? So the delay of me lifting and going to the brakes and pushing down, there's a delay there, okay? Instead, I can be like, oh, brake, and I'm going to start braking before I'm lifting. And I can meet in the middle. And then I can always lift and go over here, but I'm already pushing the brakes, okay? It also gives me that ability to come off the corner, to have a slight push, because I'm just overloading the right rear, I'm unloading the left front, and I can drag that brake using both. If you are only using 1 foot, if you only are using your right front or your right foot, you don't have that ability. You are robbing yourself of a tool to help drive the car, okay? Because you can't use both pedals at the same time, right? And the other part of that is, if I'm going down the straightaway and I'm going to lift and I'm going to brake for the corner and I'm going to turn in, if you are not using one input at any given time, you are losing speed. So if I lift, and we're round numbers, I lift and it takes a second from when I lift to getting on the brake, and then it takes another second from when I lift and I get back on the gas. It won't be that slow, but round numbers, right? That's 2 seconds of time. If I'm not turning, then I'm losing speed, okay? I want to go from acceleration to braking immediately. I want there to be no delay. If I'm going from braking to turning, I want there to be no delay. If I'm going, now, the exception to that is in the center of the corner, I might have to maintain speed. I might have to maintain whatever mile per hour, depending on the size of the corner, okay? So you might not be able to go right back to gas or vice versa. For the most part, a lot of tracks, you can go gas, brake, turn, gas relatively quickly, okay? The longer you're coasting, the longer you're rolling in, the longer you're letting things just pull down. If you and I are headed down the same straightaway, okay, and this is the point you and I both are going to enter the corner, okay? If you lift right here, okay? And you coast and you roll until your turning point, okay? You stop accelerating right here. And if you and I are tied right here, okay? If I accelerate to here, and this is our turning point, and we're gonna say you're going 70 miles an hour, okay, right here. Both of our cars need to be at 60 miles per hour to make this corner. If you lived here and you coast to here and you hit 60 right there, okay, if I stay in the gas and I hit 73 right here, and then I apply the brakes immediately, and I let off the brakes right here as I turn in, and I'm down to 60 miles an hour, I'm putting that much distance on you every single straightaway. If you and I both need 60 mile an hour at the same point, but I can carry more mile an hour down my straightaway, and I can shorten this distance to hit the same mile an hour, I'm going to put, and this might be inches, I might put 6 inches on you every straightaway, but every straightaway I'm going to put 6 inches on you. It's not going to take that many laps until I've got 10 feet, right? So if you can accelerate and then brake hard and turn, you will be faster. Now, your lap time, if you screw this up and if you coast down, you turn in and you're 60 mile an hour every lap, 70 to 60, 70, 60, 70, 60. Say I go 73 to 57 and I go 71 to 62 and I, 70 to 60, right? If I'm inconsistent, you're gonna be faster than me. You're not losing 6 inches a lap. But if I can do 73, 60, 73, 60, 73, 60, 73, 60, while you're doing 70, 60, 70, 60, 70, 60, I'm gonna beat you. Okay. If this is the distance that it takes for you to lift, so say I start braking here and you start braking here, because this is where you lift and you have to take your foot from this pedal, move it over to this pedal, apply it, start pushing down. So you have to back that up to here, and I am doing that here with both feet. I'm still going to beat you, because even though you're braking and you're getting to 60 and I'm braking and I'm getting to 60, I am accelerating longer than you are. Okay. And we're not taking into that whole back the corner up and get in the gas first and all that. We are merely talking, I can go in a little bit deeper than you every time, hit the same corner speed, but I've already gained a little bit of distance. Okay. So are there guys who are fast with 1 foot? Yep, absolutely. Are there guys who beat me who drive 1 foot? Absolutely. Those guys ask me how I can do certain things in the car that I can do because I can use 2 feet. Absolutely. Right? If you're like, hey, I don't know how to use both feet, I just can't get that concept. Practice on the street. Okay? Practice on the street. Build that muscle memory when you're not in a race car. Pull up to a stoplight, use your left foot to brake. Pulling in your driveway, use the left foot to brake. Right? Maybe not like if you know you can't actually do it, maybe not into the garage kind of thing, right? But just use your left foot in everyday traffic. If you get in a car and you're using left foot and you get used to using your left foot to stop, it will become second nature. Okay. Now here's a caveat. Take your damn foot off the brake pedal. Especially on the street. People who have their brake pedal depressed the entire time, just right. So if you use both feet, you'll be faster because you can work on using both pedals at the same time, dragging the brakes, dragging the gas while you're steering. You can be faster. You can be more consistent. You can have another tool in your arsenal to go faster. Okay. So there we go. This is where I open it up to questions. I've covered the topics I want to cover. Have I missed something that you would like an answer for that I haven't answered. Milwaukee had big enough and flat enough corners that we could have coffee and a smoke at each end of the track to see the way. Yeah. Yeah. I love to see it drag though because they're Blake's. Oh, dude, mine glow red all the time. Full send, all gas, no brake. Dude, that was me at Bristol. Tried to. So, yeah. And some guys will argue with me about the no brakes, right? There are guys who race similar cars, similar speeds at same tracks who don't use the kind of brakes I do. That's fine. So, but I'd rather have really good brakes and use them half the time than have shitty ass brakes. And when I need them, I hit shit because I can't stop. So, all right. Well, wait. See if there's a question or two. What pads do I run? I've been running the Carbotex. I've been running the XP20s or XP12s. I've been running them for years. I'm supposed to be working a deal with another pad vendor, but I talked to them at MPMC and then they ghost me. And it's a little frustrating because they've done it 2 years in a row. So if they want to work with me, I'll run their pads. If they don't, I'm going to keep using the Carbotex. So I really like the Carbotex. I don't have any complaints with them. But if another company wants to work with me, I'll work with them. So I'm going to take a second. I'm going to look at the phone and I'm going to see if there's anything I've missed from YouTube because we are live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So I'm going to keep talking to you. So feel free to ask a question. I will answer it. But I'm going to try to see. Hopefully, I haven't really missed any YouTube comments because I would feel really, really bad because they're going to feel like, hey, that dude didn't pay no attention to me. Bob, I love you. Bob asked Charlie Smith on YouTube had said, and on how you run that much toe out, I've run the regular 1/8 inch and done fantastic. Charlie, if you are still watching this point, have you ever tried 9/16? Oh, this was a good question. Curtis Masterson had asked, I missed this one. Should camber be the same degrees on both sides? Doesn't matter if they are different. Yeah, I typically run more on the right front, but if you can get a bunch on the left front, you can actually make it work really, really well. So, no, you don't necessarily have to run the same amount side to side. That's just that dance of air pressure versus camber to get the tire temps where you need. So there's some advanced stuff that goes with that, with running more camber and less air pressure. But that's for another show. So, yeah. So if anybody else has any more questions, please toss them out. But otherwise, that was everything I wanted to talk about. We've been doing this 2 hours. I was hoping to make it an hour show. I should have known better. I should have known better. Also, it's raining pretty good. So, yeah. But anyways, if you haven't already, hit the like button. It is the only thing I ask of you. I am working on getting some more stuff up on the Front Wheel Drive shop. I really, really am. I'm just not very good with computer stuff. So the goal tomorrow, especially if it's raining and stuff, or I can't work outside, the goal tomorrow will just be sit at the computer and get some things uploaded to the Front Wheel Drive shop. Yeah, I got an idea for something for the subscriber group. So we're going to go live there tomorrow. Tomorrow evening, we'll go live in the subscriber group. So just so everyone's aware, we'll be there. I'm trying to do more with subscriber group, make it worth that $5. So yeah. Ben! Oh, dude, I am so excited. Ben, I legitimately have half a dozen guys who want to come to our area while you're here so that we can like hang out and race and stuff like that. It's gonna be epic. I gotta get in the pole barn so that we can hang out and we can party in there when you're here. Like, it's gonna be a ton of fun. I cannot wait. So if your log window's on the right side, is it worth doing? It can be. So it's all aerodynamics, and aerodynamics can be tricky because if you ask the right people, I had to be cheating like a son of a bitch to make a neon so fast at Bristol, despite the fact I've been top 3 in times 4 out of 5 years. Right? We won't talk about that. But because Dad's car was so aero dirty, you know, the front bumper was up in the air, and the sides were goofy, and the tires stuck out, and I had no rear window. I didn't have the side windows that some guys had 27-inch side windows with 19 curves in it that are super mad that they can't have that anymore. You know, it was so dirty and it was heavy, so it was proof that the K-Series are such a disadvantage because that Neon could run fast. He led for half a lap, right? But the fun thing about aerodynamics is that Dad's car does not have the side windows, does not have a rear window, it's not a spoiler. It does have the interior tinned in really well. So any air that comes in that side window can exit quickly and easily. The spoiler, the front did not touch the ground like some guys did. So I didn't have the air being trapped from under the car. But air going in the front bumper was able to come out easily and quickly. Okay. Air went around the side of the car pretty well. Like, we carried so much corner speed. That car, I was turning under guys. The car handled so well. I could overcome a little bit of aerodynamic drag, right? So I will tell you, I am personally not a big fan of right side windows because I haven't seen someone do it properly yet. Reason being, if you get turned around and you get driver's side against the wall and you have to unfortunately exit out the passenger side of the car, okay? If you have a side window that's riveted in, bolted in or something like that, you're trapped. If your shit's on fire and you're against the wall and you can't get out, or you're against another car which is on fire and you can't get out, or a car is turned upside down on you, leaking gas, and it might catch on fire, you can't get out, okay? If you have a right side window and you have a way to very quickly and very easily get it out of there, maybe, right? For the most part, most guys just rivet a big ass piece of Lexan in there, call it a day, and that's dangerous. So, yeah. Could help. Faster you go, the more it could help. Okay? So, yeah. All right. That's what I got for tonight, guys and gals. Thank you for tuning in over on the YouTube. Thank you for tuning in on Facebook. We're going to try to be live from the studio Thursday. I had some Wi-Fi issues on Thursday. So we're going to try to have a guest on Thursday, try to do some interviews and whatnot. So I'm really digging doing the interviews. I'm really enjoying talking to people. A lot of fun stuff coming up. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully some of this information helps. If you have an idea that you'd like to see for a tech show over the next little bit, shoot me a message. Let me know. Comment on something. Let me know. Hit the like button. That's all I ask. Otherwise, thanks for being here. And we'll see you guys again soon.